Welcome back, everybody. I can't tell you how much money I've spent fixing my stucco house. I bought it brand new. 4 years later, we had wood rot. It was a mess, and every buyer of mine that buys a stucco home, I bring in Greg Morgan with Lone Star Stucco. Greg's the man, and here's the thing. Stucco gets such a bad rap.
It does.
Tell me about it.
There's nothing wrong with stucco. It's been around for thousands of years. It's a huge misconception. It is absolutely a few things that affect a stucco house. One, the architecture. We really want it to be beautiful and amazing. The functionality. How is the contractor going to put it together?
It's the building process,
It's
right?
the building practice is what I really like to tell people too.
Okay, so it's not the actual material itself.
Nope.
Because I've always thought we're on clay soil in Houston, so the ground is like this, expanding, contracting. You have a rigid material like stucco.
Correct.
When you have a crack because of the ground, water gets behind there. If it's built badly, there's no way for that water to escape, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And what happens is moisture gets trapped. So if you think about stucco as the first layer of skin of your house, there's many layers to stucco. But stucco, traditional hard coat, is 3/4 inch thick. We're not really looking at stucco. We are, don't get me wrong. We're looking at the wood sheathing, the substrate behind it, and then the framework behind it. That's how you put the house together. Whether it's stucco, brick, siding, what's going on between these two areas, which is called the drainage plane. If you cannot get moisture out, it'll cause damage. It's perfectly normal for moisture to get into a stucco system, but does it have a logical path to get out?
So what about stucco itself in a humid climate like Houston, and we get hurricanes? By the nature of what it's made of, doesn't it wick in moisture?
It absorbs it. It depends on what kind of paint is on it. There's acrylic paint. There's actually elastomeric paint with that has thicker resins, which will help kind of like Rain-X on a windshield. It'll help sheen the moisture off. It's truly, we have so much rain sometimes. We'll have, like in Harvey, we had 5 days straight of rain. It gets into that drainage plane again. The house cannot get the moisture out quick enough. And then what happens, the moisture rolls back into that second layer skin, the actual structural sheathing. Now it's a sponge. It absorbs the moisture, and then when it gets into the framing is like a super sponge and will not let go of the moisture. In Harvey, when houses flooded from the ground up, you saw the sheetrock ripped out. You saw all the studs. What nobody understood is when the studs get wet, they could stay wet for up to a month. They need to dry out. And when the house gets overcompensated from moisture, it cannot catch a break.
Okay, so the problem with stucco, when you do see stucco issues, is it gets back there, there's no way for it to escape because it was built wrong. So
Correct.
you have wood rot, and you have that dreaded M word, which is mold.
I don't like that word. It's the dirtiest word out there.
It
Absolutely.
is, but I've had it. You see it all the time. And we're gonna look at a building practice. We're gonna look at some things you've inspected and what you're currently doing. Show me what a stucco inspection looks like.
Absolutely. What we're doing is we're looking at the house. We're actually going to do counterclockwise elevation photos is what we call them. We actually do consistent photos of everything that we're doing, and then we come back and we look at all the small finite details of construction and where things could go wrong. Sometimes you need to maintain things. Just like your vehicle at home, you want to maintain your sealants just like you want to change the oil in your car. So we're going to be looking at how the stucco brick terminates to the grade. We're going to look at the door sealants, penetration sealants.
Missing flashings.
Exactly,
Missing
window
weed
flashings,
screeds.
yes. And on these structures, it was a failure from the builder from inception where they didn't do a proper door pan flashing, letting excess moisture into the system.
Okay, so from your experience, do most stucco builders do it wrong? In my experience, they have.
I would say flip a coin. Every house is different. You could actually go to a complex like this one where there's multiple units, and some are done right, some are done wrong. It depends on the subcontractors. With anything you do in life, you better do it right and take pride in what you do.
Right, and the thing is, every client of mine, whether you're buying a new construction or a resale, I bring in Greg. You've got to do a stucco inspection because you just don't know what's back there. Let's get started.
Absolutely.
Let's drill some holes.
We're looking at the house. We've already done our visual inspection. We noticed that the drainage plane here has been obstructed. There's a 1x4 trim piece that's blocking the drainage plane. So in this instance, I'm not going to drill through the stucco. I'm actually going to go in between and get right in between the drainage plane to where the second layer of skin, the wood sheathing is, and let's see what's going on with it. So this is actually the wood sheathing that is actually deteriorated and is actually rotted.
So that is wood rot right there.
All day.
Because all day. So that means the substrate is soft and you have mold back there.
Not potentially mold. I'm a licensed mold consultant, so again, I don't like that word.
Okay.
If you think about it, the outside shell of the house, and then you have the wood sheathing, then you have that framework, that's where the insulation is, and then you have your interior environment, your sheetrock and everything like that. At this point, there's nothing wrong with mold in this structure. It's on the exterior, but if it is neglected for years and years and years, it is a great conduit for growth of mold.
Got it.
The main issue with this structure is at inception, the builder inset these doors. They're very aesthetically pleasing, but when you see something that's like great, pump the brakes and understand what's going on with it. These doors are letting excess moisture into the system. And so up here where this arch is, again, there is no proper relief detail.
That means there's no way for water to escape.
Exactly. So your drainage plane, your stucco and your wood sheathing, it's completely sealed off. And what happens is the moisture is working through the system as it's intended, but then it gets down to a roadblock. And I mean, I jokingly say, if water could talk, it's like, what do you want to do now? I don't know. Let's hang out here and see what happens.
Right.
And we're showing you what happens when it just stays stagnant and it can't get out of the system.
So it's also the same thing as weep screed. Weep screed is another word for drainage plane.
Correct.
Because you got to have water to escape.
Exactly. And most weep screeds are at the bottom of the structure. And then when I say a relief detail, it gets complicated, but it's a 66 casing B to a 66 casing B. We don't really,
yeah, my eyes just glazed over.
Nobody needs to know about that, but it's just a proper detail. And again, it's a building practice. We've learned so much in the last 5 years, let alone the last 15 years, about how things were done incorrectly. And now we're fixing them. And now builders are obtaining that information and they're actually starting from scratch the right way. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
I deal a lot with builders. At the beginning, they don't like me very much, but then in the end, we work with a ton of builders now, helping them as the building goes up to be preventative and do it the right way.
That's great, because you're holding them accountable.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, the buyer's getting a better product and one that's not going to have these issues, and you're going to have to come back out.
They know when they see our inspection and they see our report, they know that I was here and that there's going to be discussions and we were protecting our buyer.
So why isn't this covered by homeowners insurance?
Homeowners insurance, like anything, everyone's been through the insurance game with roof or vehicle. They want to protect you as much as they can, but in my opinion, there's always a way out. There's always a back door. A lot of times we're dealing with the builder, and it could be 5, 10 years afterwards. You always want to look at your ACE's warranty. Structural sheathing, structural framework. 90% of the time when we find damage, it is structural. So that's a little loophole that they don't get. And if you're very persistent and you know, those who scream the loudest sometimes get the best results. When you have communities and HOAs that get together, you'd be shocked at how builders turn around on a dime to try to take care of the issue.
Well, why are bad stucco construction still happening then? We still have builders out there that don't do it right.
Well, we should take pride in what we do every day. And in any industry, we have the good and we have the bad. Builders are amazing. There's so many great people out there. A lot of times when they're trying to turn it around, and personally I will say maybe the CFO or the CEO, it's all about the number crunch. We've got to get it done, we've got to get it done. And that goes with any industry. And sometimes people cut corners. And the last guy on the totem pole, hey, they want to leave at the end of the day, go get a drink, go see their family. They might not come back to the same spot they left off. Out of sight, out of mind.
Okay, so you do inspections only, not repairs.
Absolutely no repairs. It is so unethical. There's a lot of people out there that say they have sister companies. It makes me crazy.
Keep it separate.
Absolutely.
How much is this house costing? And what were the biggest issues besides like the pan flashing, kick out flashing, no way for the water to escape? How much are we seeing in damage here?
I hate putting a number on things because it'll always come back that Greg said, but typically I have a good idea. This house would probably start off with about $20,000.
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket, depending on how they dealt with the insurance or the builder. But then a lot of times when you deal with builders, they're gone or they've changed their name.
Right.
There's no recourse. And it's going to cost you more money with legal battles to try to chase them down than just to say, I want to be a good steward of my home. I want to fix it. This is my home. I have to sell it one day. And once you have these reports, legally, you have to disclose the report for at least 5 years. So that's a good thing. You just want to take care of what you invested your whole life into.
Okay, so kick out flashing is right there.
This is a kick out flashing, and other people would call that an end dam flashing. That actually comes away from the stucco. It's actually behind the stucco, and below it is what we call pan flashing, a proper pan flashing. You look at this house, it has nothing.
Right.
And all that stucco is doing is absorbing moisture. And once you get a crack or a little wood rot, it's opening it up and it's just letting more moisture in. Water is the strongest thing in the world. It forces
And
everything.
most destructive.
Absolutely. There's a Grand Canyon for a reason, water. And so what you want to do is you want to put the pieces of the puzzle together correctly from the first time.
Greg and I have had clients that had six-figure bills to fix their stucco. So the question now is, how do we best take care of our stucco? We're going to answer that when we come back.